Okay, I found my ruler finally. It was on the floor just like I thought. Okay, we are at the point where we're going to do the top section here. Okay, so the first thing you want to do is you want to measure across. So let's go ahead and measure across, and we've got 3 1/4. So actually a little bit more, yeah, 3 1/4. So then we're going to add our 1/4 inch, so we know exactly, so we can make that seam on the side to make that little top part. So 3 1/4 plus our 1/4 inch, so we can go 4 inches across. So let's just say we need a piece of fabric 4 inches across. Let's see if I can find something to write on. Okay, here's one. Oh, that's a piece of pattern. Okay. So we need a piece of fabric 4 inches across, and we've decided that this was 3/4 and this was 3/4 and this was 5/8. I'm going to go with the 3/4. So we're going to go 3/4 twice, plus 3/4, plus we're going to have our seam allowance, which is at 1/4 inch on each side, so that's a 1/2 inch. So we're looking at 2 inches across, right? 1 1/4, that's 1.5 inches, plus 1/2, so we need 2 inches, 4 inches across and 2 inches up. Okay, so that's our square that we need to do that. What you want to think about is what kind of design you want on the top of your rompers. This one, this is that seascape one that I was going to do. So what I did is I found a piece of fabric that was just the seaweed and the rope, and I thought, well, that would be not too busy on the top, so that's what I did, ended up putting on the top of this one. The back doesn't matter as much as the front, but on the front here you can do embroidery, you can do you know, different fabric altogether. There's just so many options on these things, and you can figure out exactly what you want. Okay, so as far as this floral, it really doesn't matter, so I'm just going to go ahead and cut 2 inches up. I have my rotary cutter around here somewhere. Okay, so 2 inches. Let's see, this is an easier one to use. So 2 inches would be about right there. So that's a 2 inches up and down. Okay, so let's cut that. Okay, and then on the sides we needed 2 inches across. I'm sorry, 4 inches across, so it doesn't really matter on the sides. We'll just thin these out and we'll just even it out because we're going to cut all this off anyway. Okay, so we've got our square. So take your square and decide which way you want it to go. Do you want it to go this way or do you want it to go this way? It's up to you. Well, the flower is this way, so let's put it this way. Not that you're going to see much of the flower. Okay, so we're just going to put this here and we're going to sew across the top. So as we sew this on, we're going to have to put that center seam to one side or the other. Let me move some of that out of the way. Okay, so we're just going to sew across here 1/4 inch. And our middle seam wants to go to the left, so let's just let it stay there. So it really doesn't matter how much we're going to hang off the edge because we're going to fix that anyway. We're going to cut that off. Okay, so there's that to the side. Okay, so let's go ahead and put a seam in there. Okay, I'm going to show you the camera. Let me move you over a little bit. Okay, alright, so we're going to do a 1/4 inch seam right across here. And I'm on my 1/4 inch already. So I'm just going to go ahead and sew right across there. Okay, so basically that's all we did was sew a square of fabric on the top. So this is where we're at, okay? So if it helps you to press that up, go ahead and press that up. Okay, so we've got that sewed on, so now we're going to turn it down and we're going to fold it up that extra 1/4 of an inch. Okay, so we're going to do it like that. So put up your 1/4 of an inch. And we're going to make sure our fabric is even. And put a pin in it. Okay, so once we sew that straight up, we're going to trim this off. We're going to miter this corner, and then we're going to flip it. And that's really all there is to that top piece. Just make sure that when you are sewing this down and turning it up, that you turn that up 1/4 of an inch, because that's going to cover the seam on the other side also. So let's just keep going across. Turn up 1/4 inch. Okay, so now that we're there, we'll put this one down. Okay, and put a pin in it. Okay, so what you might want to do too at this point is to turn it over and make sure that everything's laying up properly. Okay, make sure that from the bottom to the top it's exactly your 3/4 inch away all the way across, because if it isn't, you're going to have a lopsided front bodice, and you don't want that. Okay, so I'm a little less than 3/4 here, 3/4 here. I turned it up a little bit more than 1/4 of an inch, so it won't be exactly. This one's a little bit off. Okay, so let's fix it. Let's go down. And this is where ironing, it'll help you out a lot too if you want to iron it, but I don't want to get my iron out, so we'll just do it this way. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to sew straight up from this point. Okay, so I'm going to take a piece of chalk and I'm going to just chalk it up. Okay, that's not right either yet. Okay, I'm going to put this down so I can use this chalk. Okay, so we're going to chalk up straight, and on this side we're going to chalk up straight from that point. Okay, I did it dark so you can see. Okay, so from this point here, straight up. From this point here, straight up. Okay, so we're going to put our, we're going to follow the chalk line, so put your needle position in the center, and let's just go ahead and sew down that strip there. Okay, so I just went straight down. And now I'm going to take my scissors and I'm going to cut that off, and I'm going to miter the top. Just like that. Okay, we're going to do the same thing on this side. And I'm going to turn my machine around and come from this angle. So it also helps if you want to put your needle position down and then just put your fabric in that location, and you'll get a nice edge that way too. So let's just go back a couple. Okay, and then follow that blue chalk line. Okay, so we just went up that second chalk line right there, from this corner all the way up. Okay, so we can remove these pins. So we're going to do the same thing. We are going to cut our threads. We're going to trim this down, and we're going to miter. Okay, so once we have that done, then we're going to be able to flip this completely over. So we're going to, let me get rid of this piece of thread. We're going to flip this, and we're going to have a perfect bodice here. So get whatever you use to turn your corners out and get them flush. Knitting needle or whatever you use. This is where you can also put your embroidery. You can put your buttonholes here. It depends on what you want. But you want these to be nice and crisp corners. So use whatever you've got and push them completely out to the edge on both sides. Okay, you might have to use something. Okay, alright, so now we've got that, so let's tuck that 1/4 inch down under again, and let's put a pin in it, because when we do our top stitching, that's going to secure all these around and cover up that front. Now these little corners here, if you don't like them poking out like this, you can sort of, you know, ease them up into the seam itself. You know, you might have to use a pin to keep them there until you can get them sewed. But they're on the inside, so they're not going to show anyway. But if you want it to look a little bit nicer, you can just push these up inside a little bit. Get them out of the way. Okay, let's put a pin here. Now, if you don't want to do any top stitching on this, then you're going to do a whip stitch along here, and then you won't have any top stitching showing on this side. It's up to you. It's whatever you really like to do. But I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to sew all the way around here, just like I did on this one. Okay, so let's just get that started. I'm going to go this way. Now, if you want this to be really stiff, you could make your fabric longer and then have an extra layer of fabric inside, and you'll get a tighter fit. But once you do the top stitching, it also gives you a little extra strength also. So let's go ahead and go all the way around. I'm going to start about right here. Going. I got to get a new foot. I'm going to go check my machine. Go check my kit, see if I have another one of these. Okay, turn. I'm going to cut this piece of thread off so I can get it out of the way. Okay. I didn't do a very neat job on that one, but that's okay. The button's going to go there. You'll never even see it. Okay, so that's basically it. And that finishes off the back too in the front. And it slipped a little bit, but it's okay. Okay, so you're going to do the same thing on the back two pieces, only this time you're going to fold this down. You're going to keep this in a down position as you add that. So on this one, you're going to do same thing. You're going to have 2 inches up, but in the far as the width goes, you're going to only go whatever this is. So this one is 2, and this is 1 3/4. So then add your 1/4 inches. So you're going to have 2 1/4 across, and then the same thing 2 inches up. So I won't do that on camera, so I'll just get those two done, and we're going to turn that each side down exactly that 1/4 inch, which would be our back seam. So that's how we're going to do those two. But it's the same thing as I just did, only the smaller pieces. And then when I come back, we'll finish off the back and we'll do the hem. And oh, I can't do it. I have to show you how to do it because we're going to put our straps in it. Okay, I'll come back and we'll put our get our straps going, and then I'll show you how to get the straps on. The straps come here and they come over and they catch up on this side. Okay, I'll be right back.